Hello everyone, so May is over and it's time for my May wrap-up. These are all the books that I read in the month of May, so let's just get started. First, I've got an Australian novel. This is 7 Types of Ambiguity by Elliot Perlman. I talked about this a bit in my last April wrap-up, but I absolutely loved this. The interweaving of stories was really interesting, very well done. I was engrossed by all the characters, except maybe Anna. I found her a little tiresome. But I really enjoyed this novel and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up a novel that got a lot of hype when it came out 2 years ago. This is A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing by Eimear McBride. This is the story of an Irish girl growing up in Ireland, and it's told as a running monologue or a stream of consciousness, but it's a very disjointed kind of writing style. It's something that it got both compliments and criticism for when it was first published. It's quite a different way of telling a story through a single person narrator, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think a lot of the time when you're reading it, you're not sure exactly what's happening, but you can understand how she feels about it, and that's probably a bit more interesting than knowing exactly what's happening. I quite enjoyed this story. It is quite a bleak story and it's got some really harrowing experiences in it, but I did really enjoy it and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up some poetry and plays. The first is Hold Your Own by Cate Tempest. Cate Tempest came and visited the Writers' Festival a few weeks ago in Sydney here, and it was absolutely awesome. She's like the coolest woman ever, and it was just so exciting that she came to our city. This, I think, is her most recent poetry collection, and it's a retelling of Tiresias, a Greek story about a blind prophet, basically. It's the best poetry collection I think I've ever read. I thoroughly enjoyed the entire thing. I absolutely loved it. If you've never read poetry before, or you feel like you don't like poetry, or you don't read a lot of poetry, I highly recommend you pick this one up, or just watch some of Cate Tempest's performances online. She's a musician and a rapper and a performer, and she does heaps of different performances that you can see recordings of online. Absolutely loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up another poetry collection. This is A Light Bulb Symphony by Kaye. This is an independently published poetry collection by Kaye, who is a performance poet. He is also someone you can find a lot of performances of online, and this is his poetry collection. It was pretty good, but I don't think I love his style of poetry. I think it's a very prosaic style, and I don't feel engrossed in a lot of his poems. It was pretty good. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Next was more Cate Tempest. This is one of her plays, Hopelessly Devoted. It's about 2 women in jail who fall in love with each other. One of them gets released on parole and the other one is left there in jail, and it kind of has to deal with the grief of losing her partner as she has to remain in jail. The main character, Chess, gets involved in an extra program that's offered through her jail where she gets to record a song with a performing artist who used to be a struggling drug addict. It's this kind of like mentorship program. And we get to follow her making this song and then releasing it to her friend who's outside of the jail, who then publishes it online, and kind of the fallout for that. It was a pretty good story. It's the kind of story that doesn't really hook me, that doesn't interest me very much because it's quite musical. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Next is the last book that I read in May, and it's the one I finished actually last night on the last day of May. This is Kate Kennedy's collection of short stories, Like a House on Fire. She's published a few different short story collections. The one that got the most acclaim was Dark Roots, but this is another collection, and what I really like about Kate Kennedy's short stories is that they cover very short periods of time in someone's life, but very intimately, and she describes the people in this person's life and the person telling the story as well really well in very few words. So I really enjoyed this and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, the book I am currently reading, this is a big classic. This is Anthony Trollope's Can You Forgive Her? So I'm only this far in, and it's reading like a classic Anthony Trollope novel. He's a Victorian novelist, and if you're not into classics, you're not going to like him. But I quite enjoy his writing style, and I'm interested to see how this goes, just because it's focusing on a woman who makes a mistake. Can you forgive her? And I'm really interested to see how it plays out, particularly because Anthony Trollope likes to write very overt narrators who make a lot of judgment calls about the characters. So I'm interested to see how the narrator shapes the perception perception of the reader of these characters. I think that's going to be pretty interesting. So there you go. I didn't read a whole lot in the month of May, but I did pick up some real good ones. If you read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them down below, or if you've got any recommendations, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye!